episode of Throwin the Brick. I'm your host, Jamie Dubuque. My husband told me that I had to start saying that. So here I am. I'm your host, Jamie Dubuque. I'm so excited because we are using today's episode to focus on something that plagues sports and athletes, and especially women, and it's mental health disorders. So, in honor of and in acknowledgement of Mental Health Awareness Month, we wanted to make sure that we got an episode out focused on mental health. So today I'm so lucky to be joined by three powerhouse women who come from all different walks of connections of wrestling. I've got Mira Hayes, Jess Battaloci, and Paulina Biega. So if we can, we're just going to go through first and we'll introduce yourself a little bit more and talk a little bit more about your connection to mental health. So Mira, why don't you start for us?
So again, as you said, my name is Mira Hayes. I'm currently a junior in high school, so still in the high school wrestling. Really done mostly folk style, but starting to freestyle. Mental health wise with the aspect, as an athlete, there can be many, mental struggles, performance anxiety or anxiety in general can be it. But also coming along with really, battles you'll have with yourself at times, thinking, am I doing enough? Am I training hard enough? And every once in a while, sometimes you may even think to yourself, it's like, why do I do this sport? It's like, this is so hard. Like, it's, is it really worth it? There are a lot of battles that come along with it, especially a sport like wrestling, because it can really be trying on yourself. But, in the end, though, you get through it.
Yeah. Jess, how about you?
Hey everyone, I'm Jess. I am the athletic trainer for Arizona State University Wrestling. I have been at Arizona State for about 6 months now. Before that, I worked at Wheeling University. For mental health for me, I've struggled with anxiety and depression for quite a few years now. Recently, I've just been trying to, over the past few years, I guess, I've been trying to talk more about it and be really, really open with my struggles so that I can help my athletes and help them to come forward and not be afraid to talk about what they're going through.
Yeah, that's such a great point too. We'll talk about it a little bit more later, but the fact that, for a trainer, it's not all physical, visible injuries, that you see as a trainer. So I think that's going to be a great element of this interview. Paulina, how about you?
Hi, everyone. This is Paulina Biega. I'm the Sacred Heart Women's Wrestling head coach. My connection to the mental awareness month is the fact that I've actually struggled with eating disorders myself. Starting, how old I was, about 13 years old, and I developed anorexia, and then eventually I moved into a binge eating disorder. And it was hard to admit that I had a problem. And once I did, it was hard to find help because people don't really understand it. They would tell you, just don't eat or eat more, right? And that's not an answer, because eating disorder is just a form of showing that you are dealing with something inside. The root of it go far, far, far deep, And I do want, especially athletes, to understand that this is okay to talk about it. It's okay to seek help. And sometimes, it's in a way embarrassing to admit that you are dealing with that, because you might think, well, they will either not understand me or they will think that I'm crazy. But that's not the case. It's just being sick and just needing some extra help, So that's what I want to do. I want to help. If I can help anybody, I was in someone else's shoes back then, and I couldn't really find help because many people didn't understand. So I wanted, for these people to know that they are not alone, and it's okay to seek help, and there are people who want to help them.
Yeah. So for me, my connection with anxiety comes from being diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder about 2 years ago. And I was so lucky. Like, I remember at the time when I finally went and saw a doctor, one of the first things that I did was I tried to find a female doctor, because I had been seeing a male doctor on and off, and I had actually talked to him about it. And it kept coming back to, well, maybe you should talk to somebody. Maybe you should talk to somebody. And I'm like, I know I want to talk to somebody. And then everybody that he recommended that was part of his inner circle of people that he knew, they were not part of my health insurance plan. They were out of network, and the exorbitant amount of money that it was going to cost to be able to get this kind of help, I couldn't do. And quite frankly, I didn't feel like I had the time to go and sit with a therapist on a regular basis. So which part of that probably was tied into the anxiety component of it also, but that's kind of where it started for me. And then 2 years ago, I found a female doctor. There's actually a place in in South Jersey called Virtual Women's, and it is a practice that is only run by females. There are only female nurses on staff as well. So you're surrounded by women, no matter who you see that day when you're at the practice. And the woman that I spoke with, the first thing she did was tell me this is normal. This is okay, that it doesn't feel good and that it's something that we can address, but that it's normal for me to be feeling that way. And that there was nothing shameful about it. It didn't mean that I was a bad mom or that I couldn't handle working and managing being a parent. And then the first thing she did was order blood tests to make sure that it wasn't anything that was related to deficiencies. And once the blood test came back cleared, she brought me back in and she decided to prescribe me Lexapro. And I remember having this moment of truth in my kitchen when I finally got the prescription and I was looking at it and I was thinking, if I take this, there's no way back. Like, this is it. This is me saying, I can't do this on my own anymore. I need something to help me through it. And it was a real reckoning for me. Like, I had run marathons, I had wrestled in high school. Like, I felt like I was a strong person. I had gotten a master's degree. And I couldn't believe that something like anxiety was breaking me. And when I started taking the medication, they told me that it would take about 30 days for it to kick in. And on that 30th day, I remember feeling this ungodly weight come off of my shoulders, like the burden come off of my shoulders. And I think that experience freed me up to start being more open about it. And on my personal social media channels, I've been very vocal about having anxiety, what it looks like, how my medication has gone and everything like that, because I do think that the normalizing is so important. Like Paulina, you mentioned talking about it some. So that was kind of my experience. And one of the things that the doctor had said to me, because I talked to her again right after the pandemic kind of started, we had like a telephone visit, and I was telling her that I understand that it's a pandemic and that people are sad, but the level of hopelessness that I was feeling, I couldn't reckon with. I couldn't understand it. And she told me that anxiety and depression aren't roommates necessarily, but they're neighbors. They live next door to each other. And ever since I started to wrap my head around that, I realized it's part of the game that we're playing here. And so that's but just getting that power and being able to say, this is something that I have, and being able to own it has really empowered me. And I think that us talking about this today is hopefully going to give somebody else either the strength and the confidence to also share if they're in that point in their journey and they're ready. And also the strength and confidence to possibly start seeking help if they haven't already. So Mira, let's talk about the high school level of this. What do you see and experience? I know you talked about it a little bit as an athlete, but when you're by yourself and you're away from your team and everything, how do you deal with some of maybe the challenges of anxiety or maybe like imposter syndrome, like feeling like you're not good enough and you're not doing enough? How do you handle that?
So often when it first started happening, I very much tried to ignore it. I didn't really acknowledge it. I kind of tried to use that as like quote unquote motivation, like, okay, we'll work harder, we'll do better. But again, over time, it piles up, and, part of me was like, okay, this isn't working. We need to change the outlook. And as of recent, I started really taking a minute and thinking, it's like, okay, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel like I'm not working hard enough? Is it because, I know I can push myself more and we can do better? Or is it because, there's something else going on that I'm not trying to acknowledge? So often in those times now, I try to kind of take a minute and sort of maybe just, like if I have pen and paper nearby, or even I'll just take out my phone and like open a notes, and I'll jot everything and that's going through my head down. I'll jot it down and then I'll read it through and just kind of analyze. It's like, okay, this, this is my real issue isn't, am I training hard enough other than this? Like, what is my real issue at the moment? What am I really having a tough time with? Because if I find that, then I can kind of recognize with myself, okay, this is my issue. Now let's find a solution to this instead of making it about everything else. Because I find often, especially in my opinion, in the high school spectrum, with our sports and schoolwork and friends and everything else, we can just kind of pile it all together and come together. And then, we feel it's too much. So then we decide, okay, I'm going to take all this overload, all this anger, all this frustration and pile it into one thing, because we don't know, we're never really taught how to, deconstruct it, how to really think about it as separate things and go, okay, how can I organize this? How can I calm down? We kind of, you often find yourself just trying to compile it to one thing, to one solution. So, as I said before, as of recent, I've just really been trying to, take those moments, just really think, okay, like what am I really upset about right now? And, try and figure that out. But again, often sometimes it really just is, it's, my body and my mind telling me, okay, no, we don't want to do this. We need a break. We've done too much recently, because again, as high schoolers, we end up doing a lot of things. Like I can tell you, I'm in my junior year. I did a lot of stuff this year.
Yeah.
And, at times I could just feel myself overloaded. And, those are the moments that sometimes you just need to stop and tell yourself, okay, we need to stop. We need to take a break.
Yeah. Jess, you are, as a trainer, your schedule is exhausting. And I'm going to leave you to definitely talk a little bit about what your schedule looks like. And then can you also talk, Jess, kind of building on what Mira was just talking about with when you're having these moments and you like, how are you able to kind of get metacognitive and think your way through and try to add some logic to what's going on? So what's your schedule like? And when you feel that overwhelm coming, how do you kind of process through?
Yeah, so we're definitely busy. So anytime the athletes, I'll talk about Arizona State where I'm at now, and then I'll refer back to Wheeling where I was at before. So anytime we're at lift or in the practice room and then treatment, I'm there with the team. The thing about being as AT is like you always have your phone on, you're kind of always available for the athletes to reach out, whatever they need. So you don't always get that time to like switch off. Even if you're, home, it's the evening, it's the weekend, it's the morning. So yeah, it is a pretty busy schedule. At Wheeling, I felt, a lot busier. We're a small Division II school. And instead of, at ASU, I worked just wrestling. At Wheeling, before I left, I was working 4 sports. So that was like, it was just nonstop.
Yeah.
So it's very hard. And it's also like a very emotional job because you care so much about your student athletes. And, when they get hurt or something's wrong or something, you're putting your emotions into that as well. It's not just, I can't leave at, 5 o'clock and shut the door and not worry about work. You love and care about the kids. So yeah, the schedule is pretty busy, especially in season with travel. We travel, anytime the team is traveling. Right now in the hotel room at U23s in Nebraska. So we'll get ready to compete this weekend. And then we'll get a little bit of a break. So we get a little bit of a break. The guys get to go home for about 3 weeks. So that'll be a really nice time that, the coaches are going recruiting and then I get to go home as well. And everyone just gets to disperse for a little bit and, regroup before we come back and get into some summer stuff. And then what was your second question that you had?
So knowing what your schedule is like, and stuff, especially now, like, you're alone in a hotel room and everything, when you feel, either the overwhelm and even though being overwhelmed in general is important, but I'm talking about the overwhelm that hits you like a wave crashing against you that comes from anxiety, that comes from depression. How do you, in those moments, how do you process that? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think for me, it's something that I've had to learn to do. I was not good at it at the beginning of my career. I, would carry it, and then, get to the phase where I was burnt out, which is very common in our profession. So now, I take Lexapro. I see a therapist a couple times a month or more if necessary at that time, depending on what I'm dealing with. I have learned to manage it a little bit better. So for me, I know that running is a time, and I don't take my phone or anything when I run. Like, that's my time to get away. Like, I'm going to do this. You know, exercising, I like to lift. I love to read, like, so I'll take that time and read. So it's just for me, the way to step back and get back from being overwhelmed is to do things I enjoy and to be able to let go a little bit. But I haven't always been able to do that. And that's very, very hard to like learn how to do. And sometimes I still do learn it. And another important thing for me is I've had to learn to be able to say no, because saying yes to everybody all the time to keep them happy is, you know, you want everyone to be happy. So sometimes I have to learn to say, no, I can't work that. No, I can't do that. I need some time. So that's been something else that I've learned that's helped me.
Right. I think that, so a couple of things that I've learned in the past few years is the saying that no is a complete sentence. You know, I don't have to justify or explain to you. And that is, I'm going to keep bringing it back to the women's piece of this. Like, there is this expectation that women will continuously put themselves out there and take on what they can. And there is a fear from women that if they don't, that could be the opportunity, whatever that means. Like, that could have been the moment when your career was really going to crack open. You were going to get recognized for this. That could have been the moment that blank, right? And we rationalize overextending ourselves because we don't want to miss that. You know, it's, you know, we talk about FOMO as fear of missing out, but there's also FOMO as fear of missing opportunities. And we tell ourselves that if we don't do this thing, or if we try to say no, that we're going to miss these opportunities. And I think that for women, saying no and being able to really put the energy that you do have into something that you're passionate about, that you know is going to give you the gratification and the rest that you need, it's so important. And I think that a lot of women are not capitalizing on being able to just say no, or they say yes and they do things for free. You know, like, just to bring that kind of piece into it, because the financial aspect of the collegiate coaching lifestyle, being involved in women's sports in general, and then also with athletic training, you know, the financial piece of it is very real and can add a lot to that anxiety, to the stress that comes with, you know, with trying to work and do it all, right? Trying to do it all. Paulina, so at this point, you now have the eating disorder element under control. Did you find that, because you mentioned like it's almost like the eating disorder piece is symptomatic of something else that's going on inside, right? And for you, do you see that even though you have that piece under control, do you see wherever it stems from still kind of rearing its head and trying to cause stress for you?
Oh yeah, sometimes, you know, it's a process of working on yourself. So let's say that I won the biggest battle, you know, but I don't think that the process ever ends, because there are trigger points that can, you know, take you back. And, you know, I'm sorry, my dog is being
No,
crazy.
that's a great example of a stress reliever right there.
And I am overthinker. So, you know, I think it's sideways, vertically, backwards before I, you know, make my decision, which is not necessarily the best thing. But so yeah, there are many moments, you know, but I actually, like, I've learned how to control. Like, I know, let's say something happened that upset me, or I am literally burnout and I feel helpless, you know, just a very bad day, tough day. And, you know, back then I would probably binge or I would do other things. But now I know that that's how it starts. I literally can call it what I would have done, you know, before.
Yeah.
But not anymore. But, you know, there are moments that I just feel like, you know, it's very hard, you know, but I have no urge of going back.
Right.
You know, I think that's, you know, that's what you gain once you face your demons, you fight them, and you start working on that. You know, first thing, admit that you have a problem, then start tackling it and figuring out. That's when I said that, you know, the issue with, like, for me with eating disorder, it goes back. And once I found out, you know, when it really started, I realized that And then, I worked on leading what emotion caused it, what was the root of the problem. It's not that hard anymore, but it was a process for almost over 80 years. So it wasn't easy, it was a long time.
Yeah. So let's talk for a moment. We're all involved in areas where we have people around us who can support us and be supportive of us in these moments. So I'm going to go through and I want to talk with you a little bit about what does it look like when you are able to rely on the community of people around you, whoever that is for you, friends, family, pets, whatever it is that you rely on to help get you through these moments. Okay. So Mira, let's start with you. What does that look like for you, your community of people or person, whoever it is?
So I am very lucky to say that I have great teammates and great coaches in my high school room and in the dozens of other club rooms I've gone to. I've often gotten nothing but support, and just it's really great, especially as a female wrestler, because again, in the back of your mind, you always have that thought. It's like, well, what if they don't like me because I'm a girl, or what if they don't understand? But I've often found myself to just be supported, and my coaches and teammates always just have my best at heart. My mom and dad too are also awesome. They've dealt with me in all of my moments, and in the end, they always just come up to me and just like and tell me, they're like, we know you do your best and we know you train hard, and it's really great to always have them there to really just be there, tell me it's like, it's okay, because sometimes you just need someone to come up to you and go, it's okay to cry, you can cry right now.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
That's awesome. Jess, what about you?
Yeah, so I have, a really great support system. I'll speak, to a recent, story of mine is I've been struggling a little bit over the past few weeks with, just some sadness, some depression a little bit, moving from Ohio to Arizona where I didn't know anybody was, not easy. I love my job and the people I'm surrounded with. We've just had some downtime recently, being out of collegiate season, and I don't have, a friend group here yet, or, people I can go out with on a regular basis, or people I can have come over yet. So it's a lot of alone time, and I've just been kind of lonely lately. But, I started recognizing that. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to lose interest in some things I like to do. I'm starting to be really sad. So, I, was talking to my mom about it first. Mom, I've been kind of sad. She's been there, through my whole depression and anxiety journey, my lowest of low points, And so talking to her and then talking to my therapist, I told her, here's what I'm kind of going through. And, she helped. And then I also, told my boyfriend, and I told my friend groups. I was like, hey, ladies, I'm really struggling here. And they've just been super supportive. Like one of my friends, my group, we call them the Village. They're all involved in wrestling. And one of them's going to be here this weekend. She's like, I can't wait to just hug you. And, so it's just, I've learned to be able to talk about it and recognize the signs early when I'm struggling, and being able to talk to people about it. But it's also important that those people feel comfortable. I feel comfortable with them and they feel comfortable and understand. They're not like, oh, you'll be fine. Like, just make some friends, or,
Right.
They don't ignore it. They don't blow it off, and they listen and they understand and try to help. And I think that's really important, to surround yourself and find those people in your life that are like that.
Yeah. Now, Paulina, you obviously just also kind of up and moved with your career and everything. So how are you dealing with that, with the fact that you maybe aren't around the people that you've been reliant on, and how are you keeping that community of support?
You know what? Maybe it's because I am so far away from home, and I've been, far away from home for a long time. So I do keep in touch, via FaceTime with my family. And for me, the strongest support since I started dealing with it was my sister and my mom. My sister, she was always very open about her not really understanding how it works, but she was always there to listen to me. And, I could always call her, and, sometimes I would talk to her and she's like, I don't understand you, but I love you and I'm here for you. So, whenever I have a bad day or whatever, I always call her. She's like my best friend. So that's something nice to know. And mom is always there. She always tried to help. I know now, looking back, that at the beginning she didn't really understood what was happening and how to deal with it, because it's tough. She was looking at me as her child, who she saw that was struggling, but she just didn't know how to help. And her telling me to eat didn't really work, so then I was turning against her. But eventually she, I know she tried to learn about it, and she's been fantastic, always by my side. So I didn't always have people around me who understood it, but I had people who tried to help. Then eventually I actually joined a few like support groups online, totally anonymous. So it was really nice to connect with people. And then actually I found one friend of mine back home who deal with the same problem. We just never admitted that to each other. And then once we started talking, we're like, you were just describing me, and I thought she was describing me. And then it became very nice to know that you're not alone, that there are people just like you. And definitely a game changer.
Yeah. So let's go through and let's talk. I think now that we've thought about our support systems, let's talk a little bit about like the best advice that we've gotten that helps us kind of work through those moments that we're having. And maybe that's even a mantra at this point for you, like something that you tell yourself. So let's go through and talk about that. Jess, let's start with you this time.
I think a big one for me is it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to that you're hurting. It's okay that you're carrying this stuff and sad about it. It's and I've just like learned that through the years. It's okay that I'm not okay right now. And I think like a way that I try to help other people understand that have never dealt with a mental illness is that like if you were sick, you would like, had a cough, you'd go to the doctor. If you needed, if you couldn't see and needed glasses to help you feel better or be able to see, you would go to the doctor. So that's just like, I go get help because it helps me see better,
Right.
the world better. And yeah, so for me, the big one is it's okay to not be okay. And, just that's a phrase, you see everywhere, but I think it's an important one.
Right. I think it's become almost the battle cry of, mental health, is that acknowledgement like that. It's almost like they say, like with AA, they talk about how, acknowledging is the first step, right? Acknowledging that you have a problem is the first step, and acknowledging that you're not okay and that that's something that's acceptable and you're allowed to not be okay, I feel like is part of the first step in kind of gaining back some of your power over the mental health piece of it and being able to reach out and get help. Mira, what about you?
I feel kind of one thing that I've had to learn that's really helped me is, we're human, or I am human. There's only so much we can do. Unfortunately, none of us can be superheroes, as that's not realistic, even though I'm sure we all wish we were inside we're our own superheroes. But the fact is there's only 24 hours in a day, and you need to sleep for like a fourth of that. You can't always try to do 20,000 things in one day because you need time to yourself. You need time with your family. You need time to eat. We're all human. We need time to do other things than just go, go, go.
Right. Yeah. I know for me, and then we'll talk to Paulina, for me, the two big things that I've taken away over the past few years, the mantra that I've been using is you have everything you need. Because a big part of my anxiety, and I think that this is something that people misunderstand too. There are times or days where my anxiety looks like I can't even touch the kitchen sink. Like it's going to overfill. It's going to be disgusting. And it might be 2 days before I can get my head around touching it. And no, I don't have a reason why. I know it's easy to just unload a dishwasher. It has nothing to do with being easy. It's like somebody's thrown me into water with cement blocks tied to me. And that's not even something that I can fathom. But then there are times where my anxiety looks like remodeling an entire room and repainting everything really, really fast because I really want my husband to come home and acknowledge it and give me lots of recognition and praise because look how I did all of these things, right? But it's still the anxious energy has manifested in both of those. But in one of those, I become almost hyperactive and hyper focused and hyper driven. And in the other one, I become hypoactive. I can't do anything. I just kind of melt into a couch. So for me, telling myself that I have everything I need in those moments gets me to either be focused and do what I need to do, like just clean one dish. Like I'll tell myself, just clean one dish. Let's just see how that goes. And then there are times where I can talk myself off the ledge of redoing an entire room in the house because I'm like, you don't need that right now. You have everything you need. So I've been really relying on that. And then the other thing that's really helped me, which I picked this up from a journalist who I can't remember what he was on, maybe CBS or maybe like Good Morning, something like that. But he had a panic attack on national television and it changed his life completely. And one of the things that he took away from that was that you can acknowledge the feelings that you're having and watch them go by and watch some of these destructive thoughts that you're having and just acknowledge them, but not have to do anything with them, not have to react, not have to feel them completely, just acknowledge them and kind of watch them go by like clouds in the sky. And so there are times where I almost try to step back and watch my thoughts drift by instead of jumping on and latching on and overthinking and working through everything. Paulina talked about, think about everything upside down and inside out, trying to figure out the best way to do things. So those have been my two big helpers. All right, Paulina, what about you? Mantras or advice that you've got?
Well, one was that Jessica said, it's okay not to be okay. But for me, since I was little, I've had this tag put on me that whatever I do it perfectly. I had A's, I have to be the best, I will be fine, I'm strong, I'm tough. And you know what? I don't have to be always perfect, and I don't always have to have perfect days. The same was I eat very healthy. So if I ate something that wasn't healthy, people would make like all these like comments. And, back then that was a big thing for me that I would go home and I would cry about and I would take it too personally, Yeah. And now I'm like, okay, it's okay to have chocolate, but it's okay for me sometimes, to eat bad. I don't have to be perfect. As long as I do my best and on the next day, I wake up and I start fresh and, I do what I normally do and I don't, hold a grudge over myself that, oh my gosh, I had ice cream last night, who am I? Or I was sad yesterday or I was in a bad mood. It's okay, everybody has bad days. I do too. And I am normally bubbly and cheerful and happy, but sometimes, sometimes I have a day when I feel sad, and now I know it's okay. I just, go to bed or I listen to music. I love running. Running clears my mind. If I'm having a bad day, I just play some AC/DC and I go for a long run, and then I'm like a new human afterwards, and that works for me. And in general, exercising, but. Definitely it's okay not to be perfect, and it's okay just not to be fine.
So I'm gonna round us out here, but I first off, I thank you so much for sharing your stories. And again, I know that recently on wrestling social media and the wrestling Twitter world, the big conversation has been about the realities of anxiety. But one thing that I was encouraged by, even though I was upset that was even a conversation that had to happen, was that overwhelmingly the response was people acknowledging and being adamant that these things are real. They're not made up. It's not us being over dramatic or being too sensitive or that we're not tough or that we're part of like a snowflake like that. It's not that this is very real. And like I love, Jess, you mentioned the glasses thing. You don't realize in the moment maybe that something might be wrong, but once you do and you have power over it, the last thing that you want somebody else to try to do is discredit what you know to be very real and that you've experienced. So I appreciate so much now more than ever all of you coming on to the show to talk about this and sharing your story. So thank you so much for your time. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. I hope you all have a restful and restorative next couple of weeks. Okay.
Thank you.
You too.
So-
Bye.